Global Diaspora Week remittance webinar. I'm glad you guys can all join. I'm here with Ani.
Hi everyone, my name is Ani Okasian and I am the Director of Programs here at Impact Hub Los Angeles, where Charlie and RemitRight are member companies. We're quite proud of them. So a little bit about Impact Hub. We're one of 82 hubs around the world. So this is an issue we care about a lot, and we are a incubator for social entrepreneurs like RemitRight and companies like RemitRight. So I'm here today to ask a few questions to Charlie, and so we can learn a little bit more about their product and their company.
Cool, thanks Ani, and thanks to the Impact Hub for hosting us here today. This is actually where the company was born, so it's nice to come back, even though we are based now in Washington, D.C. And thank you also to Sarah and everyone at IDEA for coordinating the webinar and the week in general. I think it's a wonderful event. My background is I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Togo, West Africa for 2 years, and then went to law school in DC and became interested in immigration and opened a legal services clinic, a nonprofit legal services clinic in San Diego in 2011, which provided direct representation to immigrant victims of human and civil rights abuses. From that experience, it was sort of a holistic clinic where we provided referrals to financial services and health services and other kind of anything that my clients needed in addition to legal representation. Out of that born the basic idea of the importance of remittances to immigrants here in the United States, and then combine that with my own experience of sending money to Togo and other countries and seeing kind of the effect of that has on individual lives in other nations. And out of that bore RemitRight, which is trying to bring transparency to an industry that has, we'll get into this, but has kind of been able to take information gap from its consumers to charge higher prices than otherwise would be with perfect market information. So welcome. I encourage everyone to ask questions as we progress, and you know, they want this to be interactive as possible.
So I'll go ahead and ask the first question. This is Ani again from Impact Hub LA. One of the most exciting things when we first met Charlie to talk about the issue that he was trying to combat was really understanding the scope of this industry. And I myself am an immigrant, and Los Angeles is full of an immigrant community. So a lot of people gravitated towards this. But for people who don't know, Charlie, can we talk a little bit about the remittance industry and just how large it is, and then the scope of the problem as well?
Yes, I mean, that's something that certainly surprised me when I kind of started to focus on remittances, was just how large an effect remittances have on the global economy. As you can see here, just from the United States, there are $120 billion sent to other countries and $560 billion globally. And remittance is defined, by the way, as a cross-border transaction. So that's that's money moving from one country to another country. It does not include inter-country transfers. So kind of a Venmo transfer in the United States would not qualify as a remittance. One interesting thing about these figures is that it does not include the informal remittances, which are actually believed to be possibly as much as 500 billion globally. So that's money that is does not travel through official channels. So the numbers are gigantic. They're growing very quickly. This global number is expected to be over $700 billion in 2017. So remittances are becoming a growing issue, and you know. It's money that goes to basic needs. I think people are familiar with that. We can talk about medicine and food and holidays and things like that, but it also is going into the real economy, into consumption, to kind of assist the receiving nations. And you can look at this chart here, which gives a little bit of a breakdown for how money is spent. You can see the majority is on family needs, but you also have kind of investment in construction and in businesses, in addition to human capital, such as school fees and education. And there's a lot of work being done on the receive side in terms of how that money is spent and tracked. I think there are some very interesting initiatives that are looking at that right now. My company does not focus as much on the receive side, although we can talk a little bit about something called value remittances, which is when a remittance is used, as opposed to being given straight in cash to a family member, it is used directly to pay for school fees or directly to pay for bills or insurance, which is a growing trend in the industry. This is from The Economist, this graph. It's a little confusing, but you can see the ODA is the development assistance, and remittances are 4 times official development assistance to developing nations on the global scale, and growing at a much faster pace. So as I think we move forward in the next 5 to 10 years, there's going to be increased focus on remittances from a development perspective. I think it's very critical to think about ways that we can encourage remittances and increase the numbers. And also from my point of view as someone who's worked in international development, I believe that consumers, I believe in market economics as a means to development more so than kind of what could be described as paternalistic development aid. I think that money spent by diaspora communities going into their countries of origin are always going to be spent in those countries in ways that grow the economy. So that's a personal perspective, and one of the reasons that I'm interested in remittances generally. If you look at, these are receiving countries from the United States. So you can see of that 120 billion I put up earlier, about a sixth of that is for Mexico. And then you have China, India, Philippines being the next major corridors. You'll see later, RemitRight has Mexico, India, Philippines, Vietnam, and El Salvador. We're going to be adding the rest of these countries in the next couple weeks. One important thing to note here is digital remittances, right? So right now, a digital remittance is one that is sent over electronically from the user is using a digital platform. So that would be going to westernunion.com and sending money via that platform. That's currently only 15% of that 120 billion. It's growing at an extremely fast rate to the point that it's going to be, or is estimated at the remittance forum in Milan earlier this year to be 50 to 80% of all remittances will be digital by 2018. If you were to break, I don't have a graph for it, but if you were to break down this chart based on digital remittances, you'll see that 60% are for India and the Philippines alone. And part of that has to do with the education level of those consumers and the tech savviness. Those numbers are going to change as time goes on, but you're seeing differences between sending and receiving countries in terms of how remittances are sent. And with smartphone proliferation, you're going to see a lot more remittance centers here in the U.S. start to send digitally. So let's talk about a little bit about price. So that's where we come in, right? It's talking about how much remittances cost. So these are the prices, percentage of a $200 transfer. And you can see the variability, right? In Thailand, it's 15% of the total transfer from the United States, whereas Ecuador at the bottom is about 3.5%. You see Mexico is about 6%. I think it's interesting to see the differences between quarters, and there's really no kind of rhyme or reason between why one is drastically more expensive than the other. But these are prices that have kind of evolved over time, and I think you're going to see this even out over the next 5 years. Where remittance is being sent from in the U.S.? Well, they're being sent primarily from urban areas where you have a high concentration of first-generation immigrants. You can see Southern California is a huge area, so is Northern California. and then Northeast New York, Chicago, Miami. So kind of the major urban centers, but you see scattering all over. I think you'll start to, as digital remittances become more prevalent and it becomes easier to send money with the click of a button, you're going to see this map kind of spread out a little further. So let's talk about the problem that RemitRight is trying to solve, right? We've kind of given the breadth of the problem. The basic problem is that before someone is sending a transfer, they do not necessarily know what all of their options are between money transfer companies. And that's a problem because there's actually a large, there's a huge variability between companies that you could choose from, and that due to the hidden fees that are often provided by money transfer operators, it makes it very difficult to compare company to company. So when I say a money transfer company, I mean Western Union, I mean MoneyGram, I mean banks like Bank of America. And so here's an example of what I'm talking about. This is from the westernunion.com for a $200 transfer to the Philippines. You'll see on the middle of the page that they charge a $5 transfer fee, which is the fee that most people look at. And you'll often see this can be zero fees, or for a promotion, we're going to offer zero fee transfers. But if you look at the exchange rate here above the transfer fee, you can see that it's being transferred at $1 for 42.6558 Filipino pesos, when in fact the exchange rate that Western Union is transferring that money is higher than that. And that's not a common rate that every company uses. That's a rate that's set by the transfer companies that they can make a profit off of. In this particular case, the fee that the user's actually paying in an exchange rate markup is $4.58, which means the transaction total that they're paying is actually $4.58 more than what they believe they're sending. And so that's where you start to see variability between the companies. It's not so much the flat fee as it is in the exchange rate markup. And here's an example of how big those differences are between companies. This is a $500 transfer to the Philippines. You can see in the fifth column the differences in the exchange rates that different companies offer. RIA having the best exchange rate in this example. Now, these are not static. The exchange rate changed twice a day at least. And so you have 44.68, whereas the lowest is Zoom at 43.60. That's a full peso difference. If you were transferring 1,000 pesos, that would be $1,000 peso difference just on exchange rate markups. And you can see on the far right what the result is, right? And so, even though the difference between RIA and MoneyGram is $6.99 in a transfer fee, if you take into account the exchange rate, that difference is over $15. And so the other thing you can notice from this is that it's really complicated. This is not simple math that people are going to do every time before they send money. It changes. It's difficult to understand, and it takes a lot of time and effort. And so that was the problem that we set off to solve. Well, let me just say that the consequence of this, you have 24 million people in the US that send money to another country. And the World Bank estimates that 15% of remittance fees are due to lack of perfect market information. In other words, people not making choices, making informed choices based on what their options are. And there are $9 billion that are paid in fees every year from the US. So that's $1 billion that are paid in excessive fees due to lack of perfect market information. And let me make another important point, and that is that cost is not always the most important factor. This number is not an assumption that everybody will always choose the lowest cost provider. But we found in our testing that there is a threshold by which users will make that switch, and oftentimes they're unaware of how big that cost difference is in which they're paying And so we're seeing a lot of people switch, even if it's not to the cheapest provider, to a lower cost provider. And so the point is that there's $1 billion there that can be attacked by bringing transparency to the industry. And by the way, that's just for the United States, right? So on a global scale where you're paying $40 billion fees per year, that's $5 billion. And you know, our goal is not to reduce remittance prices to zero. That's impossible. I mean, there's overhead costs that all these money transfer companies incur, but there is room to help people make informed choices that historically has not taken place. So let's talk a little bit about the site itself. Sarah, can we go to the website? So this is the homepage for RemitRight.com, and we're gonna go through this a little bit with Ani. It's going to be a little tricky since Sarah's in control of the transfer operator. But can we go ahead.
Let's think about, so this is actually, for the upcoming holidays, my boyfriend has family in the Philippines, so I'd like to be able to send some money home, right? So I want to walk through how I would use RemitRight. So I would like to send probably $500 US to the Philippines, and I'd like to be able to send it maybe in pesos. Yes, I'd like to send it in pesos, and I want to send it probably same day. Okay, so then how do I? So these are the transfer company operators. So how would I go about navigating this, Charlie?
Right. So, you know, you have one of the things that's interesting about displaying this information is that it's actually quite complicated. There are a lot of comparison points that you have to take into account. You know, we have ranked this in terms of a best overall value, which takes into account the exchange rate and the transfer fee. Although, you'll notice, Ani, at the top that fastest is chosen because you asked for it in 1 day or less.
I see. Okay.
So if you actually click on best value, well, actually, it looks like it was exactly the same. So best, yeah, you can also do best reviewed. And so let's just look at Small World. So Small World, you have 4 out of 5 stars, and we're currently getting these reviews from Trustpilot. Ultimately, what we want is to have it be interactive ratings and reviews like Yelp for money transfer operators, where people can insert their, talk about their experiences. We also have been taking the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which I forgot to say is a partner of ours. It has a whole database of complaints from remittance senders, and we're going to take mine from those complaints and put them under the company so that people can see what experiences other people have had.
So from this, I can feel really comfortable knowing that Small World FS is probably my best choice to be able to send money. So I'm trying to think here. So what is the fixed rates and fees here? It looks like there's no fees. Right.
So the FX rate is the exchange rate. Excuse me. So that they're transferring your money at 47.797, and let me say that is to the hour accurate, which no other site can provide data that current. and then the transfer fee is $0. Then you can see the second choice, TransferWise, has a better exchange rate of 46.034 and a $5 fee.
But it takes 5 days.
It takes longer, but it costs $2.49 more total. So but it has better reviews.
Mm-hmm.
So I have plenty of user tests where people will actually not necessarily choose the cheapest option because it's kind of a mentality of, well, if it's too cheap, that's not good.
Right.
Yeah. So it all kind of depends on the user. I mean, most people, TransferWise is a new money transfer operator that's backed by Richard Branson and Peter Thiel, only online. They have a lot of financial backing, but not much name recognition. So a lot of people actually won't even send with TransferWise. And so every user is different, right? I mean, our goal is not to channel anyone into one decision. Our goal is to allow people to make informed choices. So
I think I'm most intrigued by TransferWise because of the review system, and the exchange rate is a better exchange rate. So I think I would go with TransferWise.
Right, and the transfer time actually is an issue for a lot of people for TransferWise, but if you're sending for the holidays, then you don't mind waiting 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting is that most people will actually choose based on the fastest, because there's some sense of urgency for getting money there. And it's an interesting fact. When money is sent, it's 75% of the time picked up within 24 hours. So you can see here that we have the receive method. So for TransferWise, the receiver can only receive in a bank account. Mm-hmm. Whereas for WorldRemit and Zoom below, you can see you have the choice of bank account, in cash, or home delivery, which makes a difference because a lot of people in the Philippines may not have a bank account that are receiving the money. And so to receive in cash means that it's sent to a bank or some other sort of outlet where the individual then arrives and picks up the money in cash. We're seeing a trend towards moving to bank accounts, but there's still the majority of transfers are received in cash. So with TransferWise, that wouldn't be an option, which you can see here.
It really helps. It's so helpful to see all of them clearly compared to each other. It's helping me think about the person on the other end, how quickly I need to send it, and what is more important to me in each scenario.
Right, and you also this changes. There's no one company that's the best. So if you scroll up, Sarah, and let's do a search for. Scroll up, and let's do a search for Mexico. So we change to different country. So those are the 5 countries we offer. Let's do a few days. Compare. Well, Small World comes up again. Well, Small World actually is doing a promotion. They're trying to gain market share by providing a $0 fee across the board. I don't think that's going to be permanent, but that's something to do. You'll see RIA is number 2 here. Well, Small World is actually significantly a best value for this, $6.47 better. And so let's say you're going to choose Small World, you click Send Money. You're then going to be relocated to Small World, where you carry out the transfer on your own. You can see that's just the basic home page. Let's go back to RemitRight. I think it might be frozen. But one of the things I was going to say is eventually we want to have that take place on our site. One of the things we're finding is that when people are sent to another company, it's a little cumbersome to have to sign up and go through the whole process. We want to have that transaction take place with us, so that when you click send money, we make it easy to kind of, the switching costs are pretty straightforward. Okay, let's go back to the homepage. Okay, so if we scroll down a little bit, you'll kind of see some other things that are part of remittances, right? We don't see our role as only providing data on comparison. We also see it as educational. Some of the things I spoke about in the introduction were about, other factors. You'll see here right below, we were just recently certified by the World Bank as a comparison site. You can go a little farther back up. And we're the first private sector company to have that certification. The other ones are all directly World Bank affiliated. Their data is not current like ours. A lot of it is quarterly, which makes a big difference. And then, that was a huge step for us. It provides us with institutional credibility as we develop partnerships with other organizations. We're speaking to the SEIU, the Service Employees Union, to get an endorsement from them, and also the Institute for Mexicans Abroad, which coordinates all 50 consulates, Mexican consulates in the United States, and United Way and several other organizations, to try to make our service known to remittance centers throughout the U.S. Other things that we provide are learning tools, which talk about kind of the costs of remittances, and also a blog, an informative blog. So contents are a really important part of what we're doing, because it's part of the education, and part of the information and making those informed choices I've talked about. We're also going to have individual country guides. Let's go back to the PowerPoint real quick, Sarah. We're almost we're reaching the end here. Okay, so we talked that we just launched this new product this month. We want to have 25,000 users by the end of 2015. I talked about these partnerships that we've already developed. Our team, myself, Mike. I didn't really talk about my co-founder Patrick. His background is in building transparency platforms in global health, particularly in pharmaceutical markets for HIV, malaria, and TB. He did that for the World Health Organization. We met in the Peace Corps in Togo 10 years ago, so we have a long history. And then our other, this is blocking the question. Sorry, I have a question here, but it's not letting me. There we go. Okay. Can you talk about which countries are transferred for data and what role your time in? Yeah, so we have data is actually an interesting point that I would need to bring up, and we are, as I said, collecting this data hourly for 5 countries, and we have been for about 6 months: Mexico, India, Philippines, El Salvador, and Vietnam. What's interesting, as we talk to the World Bank and the Inter-American Bank and other organizations and private companies, is that very few people actually have this data. And so we're collecting that, and we're going to package that in interesting ways to help people both understand fees and price variations over time, but also to understand consumer behavior. So we're going to be tracking what decisions people make when different price points are placed in front of them. And that data has never been collected. So we're very excited about that. We already started collecting data for many other countries. We're not displaying it on the website yet because it actually takes a bit of time to put that into production. We'll have that in the next month or so, but we are collecting that data. So please, if you're interested in this sort of data, please reach out to me. Is RemitRight a service provider? No, we are not a service provider, Joseph. We are simply a comparison tool. So you can think of us as a Kayak or an Expedia or some other aggregator where you can come and understand what the different companies are. So we do not make any transfers. We don't touch any but the money whatsoever. We simply are an intermediary between the consumer and the transfer operators. That's right, Sarah. We are in Spanish. I should have mentioned that when we were on the homepage. We're completely in the Spanish language. We plan on adding other languages as they come up. Certainly French will be very soon when we add West African countries. We have a good advisory team and are part of the currently part of the Halcyon Incubator, which is a social enterprise incubator based out of Washington, D.C. So if anyone's in Washington, feel free to get in contact with me. And we went through the Village Capital FinTech program in the summer, which was fantastic. So I think that's the presentation. That's the site. If there are any other questions, let me know. You can also email me anytime. I'm happy to talk offline. Are there any final questions? Ani, thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
And I think that's it.